The Smith family, Richard, Susan, Jesse, and Sam, arrived in Sweden, their destination of vacation on the secluded island of Svalta. Susan, a keen historian, shared the island's grim past. During an 1824 epidemic, the islanders had quarantined themselves, a desperate act that led to famine and, tragically, cannibalism. This dark chapter birthed Karantan, a decennial 8-hour festival featuring theatrical performances honoring their ancestors' sacrifices. Their journey began at a coastal cafe where the owner was notably unwelcoming. Susan attempted polite conversation, asking about his children, only to receive the blunt, sorrowful reply, "They're dead," while their parents were occupied. Jesse and Sam explored the cafe, discovering a large seabird with its head severed, a macabre find Jesse documented with a photograph. When the Smiths inquired about the ferry to Svalta, the cafe owner dropped a plate in shock. He revealed that travel to the island was forbidden during Karantan, adding that there were no accommodations. Richard countered by showing him their Airbnb reservation with Mats Larsson. The owner, undeterred, strongly advised against going, claiming the islanders were hostile and hinting at cannibalistic practices. The Smiths, dismissing his warnings as exaggerated local lore, were determined to experience Karantan. Hearing the distant sound of an arriving ferry, they left the cafe, the owner's final warning unheeded. At the dock, the ticket agent's reaction mirrored the cafe owner's shock. Richard briefly returned to the cafe for his forgotten wallet before rejoining his family as they boarded the ferry. The atmosphere on board was immediately tense. The locals stared at the Smiths with unnerving intensity. A bald, sinister-looking man offered Susan a drink, leading to a brief but heated confrontation with Richard, punctuated by the man's curses. Upon landing on Svalta, the Smiths were met by the entire community gathered at the harbor, their faces expressing displeasure. Clara, their stern leader, demanded to know their purpose. The Smiths explained they were tourists there to see Karantan. A young boy, Ingemar, declared they were not welcome. Susan then revealed a personal connection to the island. Her ancestor had been a British officer killed by the islanders over 2 centuries prior, a revelation that further angered Clara. Just as Clara was about to order them away, Mats Larsson arrived, introducing himself as their Airbnb host. The islanders reacted with fury at Mats for housing outsiders. He retorted that the house belonged to his mother, and he answered to no one. After a tense exchange, Clara reluctantly conceded, allowing the Smiths to stay, but with a stern warning that their visit would be brief. Mats then escorted them to their secluded Airbnb, a house with its own tragic history. He casually revealed that his mother had been murdered there 10 years prior, beheaded in the very chair Richard now occupied. Though disturbed, the Smiths tried to maintain their composure. After Mats left, Jesse, while taking a bath, heard unsettling noises emanating from behind the bathroom mirror. Later that night, the family was awakened by a commotion outside. They discovered the islanders assembled with torches, one of them throwing a dead raccoon onto their doorstep. This unnerving incident made the Smiths seriously reconsider their decision to visit. Clara was observed watching them from a distance. The following morning, Jessie confided in her father about the unsettling noises and the feeling of being watched. Unbeknownst to them, someone was indeed spying on them through a hidden camera system. Richard went to Mats's house to confront him about the previous night's harassment, presenting him with the dead raccoon. He threatened a negative review, prompting a worried Mats to promise he would speak to the community. Later that day, while exploring the island, the Smiths noticed empty coffins being unloaded at the harbor. They remained unaware, however, that the cafe owner and his wife had been brutally murdered. Detective Forsberg arrived on Svalta to investigate these murders, his prime suspect being Johan, the bald man from the ferry and a recently released convict. He warned Clara about Johan, but she dismissed his concerns, asserting that Karantan's authority superseded any outside jurisdiction. Elsewhere, someone was shown watching Richard and Susan through a hidden camera, engaging in disturbing voyeuristic behavior. The islanders were seen rehearsing for Karantan when Forsberg interrupted them, inquiring about Johann's whereabouts. He learned Johann had left the island to buy vodka. Clara reiterated that outside law held no sway on Svalta. Meanwhile, Sam and Jesse visited the local cafe, now run by Ingemar, who warned them they had made a grave mistake. The siblings, seemingly unfazed, explained they were only there because their parents wanted to see the play. They then encountered masked islanders carrying coffins marked English Lyre, a sight that genuinely frightened them. Back at the Airbnb, they discovered evidence of Matt's having been in Jesse's room. Clara revealed to the islanders that this year's Karatan would include a human sacrifice, the Smiths. This revelation terrified many, including Ingemar and Clara's own son, Sven. Clara coerced Mats into assisting her plan, using his past transgressions as leverage. On Karatan Day, Mats brought drugged cookies to the Smiths, inviting them to the play. The Smiths declined, stating they would only attend the climax. As the play began, depicting the historical quarantine and the islanders' revenge on the English, the Smiths, having avoided the drugged cookies, ambushed and murdered Mats. A series of flashbacks revealed their true nature. They were serial killers, responsible for the cafe owner's death and the decapitated seabird. They then embarked on a violent rampage across the island, causing widespread panic. The islanders, unaware of the Smiths' involvement, believed Johann was responsible. Jesse and Sam killed a harbor guard and even took a photograph with her corpse. Sven discovered the body and alerted the others with a flare gun. The Smiths then attacked a hut where some islanders were hiding. Richard was stabbed by Sven but appeared unaffected. They breached the hut, but Clara and Sven had already escaped, leaving others to face the Smiths' wrath. The Smiths continued their merciless killing spree, even murdering young Ingemar. Forsberg received word of the massacre, Johann remaining the prime suspect. The Smiths gathered the bodies and set them ablaze, Richard and Susan making chillingly casual remarks about the smell. During this gruesome act, Richard killed Sam during a sudden argument. Jesse casually commented that she would need to find a new brother, revealing that Sam was merely a hired accomplice. Sven desperately urged his mother to flee, but Clara, fixated on completing the ritual, refused. Sven left to retrieve his shotgun. The Smiths, returning to Mats's house, discovered his hidden camera room and a secret passage leading to their Airbnb. Sven shot Jessie as she entered the Airbnb, but she feigned injury, framing Mats. Sven, finding Mats's body, realized Jessie's deception. Richard then ambushed and killed Sven. The Smiths revealed their true nature to a horrified Clara. Forsberg arrived and mistakenly shot Clara, believing she was attacking the Smiths. The Smiths, still feigning innocence, were escorted to a boat to leave the island. Johann, returning to the island and completely unaware of a massacre, was shot dead by police who mistook him for the perpetrator. As the Smiths' boat departed, Richard chillingly declared, "The family that slays together stays together."